Oh, goody.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Zombies here again, and today we're back with another Marvel Snap video. So in this one, we are going over our day one decks for Hitmonkey. New season drops tonight, and this has been one of the more hype season pass cards we've got in a while. I think Nimrod was kind of a bit of a miss for a lot of players. Cool card, but definitely didn't see a whole lot of play, in part due to a, well, let's just say interesting meta. But we got some cool ones for Hitmonkey here for all the different pools. So starting out with pool 1 here. Now our pool 1 and pool 2 decks are mainly going to be zoo based, as that seems like the best shell for Hitmonkey. He gains extra attack for all the other cards we played that turn. So in a deck like this, you'll probably want to be holding a lot of your cheaper 1-drops towards the end of the game if possible, and just tempoing out your other high cost cards on curve when you can, such as Bishop, Mr. Fantastic, Kazar, and Blue Marvel. Other than that, we just have the good 1-drops in pool 1 and things like Ant-Man, Elektra, Squirrel Girl, Korg, and Nightcrawler. Angela and Hitmonkey going in as 2-drops, as well as Sentinel to give us something to consistently play. Moving on to pool 2, we do have some good upgrades here. Core of the deck generally remains the same. However, we have lowered the curve a bit as we get more good 1-drops, and I think the more 1-drops, the better for Hitmonkey. So the main additions we have here are Sunspot and Iceman, 2 of the most powerful 1-drops in the game. And then we also add an armor, as Killmonger is probably at its most prevalent while we're in pool 2. So giving a way to protect our 1-drops, given that they're essentially half of our whole deck here, probably worth it. Whether or not you want to run armor really does depend on how much Killmonger you're running into, but usually there's a decent bit of it in pool 2, so I would recommend it. Moving on to pool 3 and above here, we have another iteration on our zoo deck. Unfortunately, at their time of recording, Kitty Pryde is still disabled, though I think she'll be really good in this deck, as she gives us a repeatable way to always have an extra thing to play with the Hitmonkey on the final turn, or if we just want to tempo him out earlier on in the game. But since she's not currently usable, I would recommend replacing her with another good 1-drop like Nightcrawler or Korg. But yeah, the other upgrades we have here, Hood is a really powerful one, especially in combination with Bast, being able to turn it into a 3-power thing that gives us a 6-power thing. Really, really ridiculous, and is a really cool interaction. Kitty is really good with Angela and Bishop, and also just helps us guarantee that we do have something to play with the Hitmonkey, or I guess have more things in this instance. And then the other upgrade we have here is Shang-Chi. Most decks right now are running something that can get Shang-Chi'd. It's a very powerful card in the meta right now. Possible this might change a little bit if they ever actually get around to nerfing the Shuri deck, but for the time being, Shang-Chi makes a lot of sense in stopping decks that are trying to go a lot taller than us, so we can swing a lane and win the game. Our last iteration on the zoo build here is pretty much the same as the one we just showcased. However, one important addition is Thanos. So I actually played a lot of the Thanos zoo deck without Hitmonkey a few days ago, and it did really, really well for me, and it's also just a ton of fun to play. So it's pretty much the same deck that we were running before, except we just cut the Bishop for Thanos. It's possible maybe one of the 1-drops is the cut, but I really do think a lot of these 1-drops, pretty much all of them, have a very important role to fill. Again, Kitty being disabled, maybe you put Bishop back in her place, but the core of this deck is really solid. It really appreciates the usefulness of the stones, and occasionally, sometimes slamming the Thanos for 10 isn't that bad either. But we're really just trying to make the most use of the powerful 1-drop stones and then buffing them up with our other good zoo cards in Kazar and Blue Marvel. And Hitmonkey definitely seems like he'll take great advantage of this, because the more 1-drops we have, we don't really have to hold our 1-drops to still have a bunch to play on the final turn with Hitmonkey. Next up is one I'm probably the most excited for, and that is good old-fashioned Sarah Control with Hitmonkey. The Sarah Control deck has always been trying to dump a bunch of cards into play on the final turn, and Hitmonkey really enjoys that style of gameplay. The fact that we're making all of our 2-cost stuff 1-cost, we can play kind of an absurd amount of cards here, and also the fact that Mysterio essentially enables 3 play triggers means Hitmonkey's going to get absolutely huge. So I've always liked the Sarah Control deck, probably one of my favorite decks in the game, and it's relatively on the budget side, pretty much a pool 3 deck. The only pool 4 card you need here is Zabu, and worst case, if you don't have Zabu, you definitely can still play Sarah Control without him. He just gives a nice boost to being able to consistently get down our Shang-Chi or our Enchantress when we don't always draw our Sarah. But yeah, we're just trying to swing the game by taking out an opponent's big threat with either Shang-Chi or Enchantress, or just nuking their board a bit with Killmonger while buffing our own with the Nova blowing up. Other than that, we just have some good 2-drops here. Scarlet Witch to deal with bad locations, Sentinel so we always kind of have a tempo play, Zabu to make our powerful tech cards cheaper, Mysterio's really good with things like Bishop and Hitmonkey, and then Lizard as just a generically good 2-drop that is really cheap when we have Sarah. Another version of the Sarah deck that looks really good right now is the Sarah Darkhawk version. Pretty much the same core here, however we do make some substitutions. Since this is a Darkhawk deck, we don't really want to be running Enchantress, as there can be some collateral damage there, so I find it's usually okay just to have Shang-Chi. And we do have the cards here that normally pump up our Darkhawk, so Rock Slide and Korg. Other than that, pretty much the same style of a deck. We do end up dropping the Killmonger Nova package though, as we do need a little bit of space to fit in these rock cards. Plus Killmonger blowing up the Korg isn't exactly ideal, so we pop Angela and the 2 rock cards there in their place. But other than that, plays a lot like the normal Sarah Control deck. It just goes a little bit taller in terms of the total power it can produce, and can sometimes disrupt your opponent's draws with the rocks. Next up is probably the deck I am personally most excited for here, and that is the Bounce deck. So I played a lot of this deck before Kitty got temporarily removed, and it's just a whole ton of fun, and I think Hitmonkey is going to be a really powerful addition to it. The deck just does a surprising amount of power, and you're interacting quite a bit with your opponent with things like your Iceman and your Korg. Bast, really good, like in the Zoo Shell, as it's buffing up all our cheap stuff. Bast is also really good with Mysterio, because it turns the Mysterio illusions into 3 power things, so you end up paying 2 for 9 power. Obviously that has good interactions with Bishop and Hitmonkey as well. And then we have Darkhawk here. Now if you want a little bit more budget version, you could actually sub out the Darkhawk for Shang-Chi. Personally, I find that going taller is really nice in this deck, but if you don't have him, you could try Shang-Chi to try and stop the opponent from going tall. Kitty, I think, is really good in this deck for our things like Angela and Bishop, just has a lot of good synergy, and we do know that it is currently a bug, the fact that she isn't retaining the cost reduction from getting bounced with Beast. So when that gets fixed, it'll be even better. Still waiting on Kitty to come back into the game, but if you want to try this without her, you could put in another 1-drop potentially, or you could even try something like Black Widow for Darkhawk or the Collector. And last but not least here, we have a Mr. Negative Hitmonkey deck. So Negative, obviously, very good with Hitmonkey, as Hitmonkey becomes free, and Negative is usually trying to slam a bunch of cards in the final turn. It's also giving us the benefit of having another on-reveal effect to make our Wong more useful, as Wong is already good with our other on-reveal cards here, such as Ironheart, Jubilee, and White Tiger. I've really enjoyed the Negative Shell, and it seems to be doing a bit better now that Leech isn't as popular as it once was. Bast also is really nice in this deck, because we have pretty much our whole deck here that gets a boost from the Bast power increase, so that's a lot of power for 1 mana. Other than that, we just have some ways to ramp out Mr. Negative early in Psylocke and Zabu. Obviously the Iron Man and Mystique combo, because I mean that's one of the main reasons to play a Mr. Negative deck. Jubilee might look a little strange, but I found her to be really good both flipped after negative, good with Wong for getting 2 more negative draws, or sometimes we'll just slam her out on turn 3 if we haven't drawn our Mr. Negative, but we did draw, say, our Psylocke or our Zabu to get an extra chance at either Mr. Negative or one of our bigger impactful cards like Darkhawk, Iron Man, or White Tiger. Before we wrap it up here, I do want to mention we are doing a giveaway for the Season Pass. I'll have a link to the description where you can enter. You just have to be subscribed here on YouTube, like, plus retweet the image, and comment with your favorite variant. and the winner of this giveaway will be drawn Tuesday night at the daily reset time. Again, if you want any links to either the giveaway or where you can import all the decks we went over today, they will be in the description below. But that is going to wrap it up for this video. If you enjoyed it, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.